Welcome to This Is How We Heal with naturopath, herbalist, and author Anthea Koulouros. With over 3 decades of clinical experience guiding thousands on their healing journeys, Anthea invites you into honest, heartfelt conversations about what really gets in the way of health and healing and what gently brings us back to ourselves. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, overwhelmed by wellness noise, or just yearning to feel like yourself again, you're in the right place. This podcast is for anyone feeling burnt out, lost in a sea of symptoms, or simply longing for a deeper connection to their health, their body, and their truth.
Hello and welcome. I'm Anthea Koulouros and this is How We Heal, a space to slow down, listen in, and remember the pathways home to health. Today's episode asks something big of us, to see how deeply the stories of patriarchy, colonialism, and capitalism have entered our flesh, to see how even our most empowered acts of self-improvement can still be obedience in disguise. This is what I call cultural deprogramming, the work of reclaiming a woman's mind, body, and spirit from systems that taught her to doubt herself, to unlearn everything we were told about what it means to be a woman, to be beautiful, to be good, and to be well. Because what if the body was never the problem? What if the betrayal women feel is not by their own biology, but by a culture that taught them to mistrust it? We are born into systems that have for centuries whitewashed and greenwashed the female body, purified it, sanitized it, and commodified it. Colonialism didn't just conquer land, it conquered the body, teaching us that nature was something to be tamed, not trusted. That wildness was dangerous, that softness was weakness, that the female body was a site to be disciplined and corrected. Patriarchy continued the project. It told us our bodies are public property, to be judged, compared, modified, and approved. It turned our cycles into inconveniences, our wrinkles into flaws, and our appetites into sins. And capitalism, the ultimate opportunist, saw profit in our insecurity. It rebranded oppression as self-care, selling us endless products to fit what was never broken. It told us to detox, to tone, and transcend as long as we kept buying. Even the modern wellness world, for all its good intentions, often becomes another mask of control. It promises liberation but sells perfection. It tells women to balance your hormones, glow naturally, be your best self, all while still measuring worth in productivity, slimness, and serenity. We are doing everything but being ourselves. Cultural deprogramming begins when we see the spell for what it is, when we realize that wellness without liberation is just another form of colonization. To deprogram is to remember that our rhythms, menstrual, emotional, creative, ancestral, are sacred. That cyclical fatigue, tenderness, rest, and change are not flaws to fix, but languages to listen to. It's to stop seeing our body as projects and start seeing them as places of wisdom. I often meet women who come to me saying, I just want to feel like myself again. When they say this, they're usually remembering a time when they felt freer, lighter, more alive, unburdened by the exhaustion, responsibilities, and expectations that came later. They imagine that version of themselves as thin, radiant, spontaneous, before children, before burnout, before the weight of being everything to everyone. But as we sit together, what begins to emerge is something deeper, and often it's not conscious at first. They think they want their old body, their old energy, their old face, but beneath that wish is something far more instinctive. It's not really about wanting to return to that old self. It's about wanting to be free again, though most don't yet have the words for that. What they're feeling, really feeling, is the ache of having been shaped by forces they couldn't see. They sense that somewhere along the way, they lost access to their own permission to rest, to change, to soften, to age, to just be. Over time, we start to name it together. That longing isn't for who they were, but for who they were before they were told who to be. The women who had to be small to be loved. The women who had to be endlessly productive to be worthy. The woman who had to smile through pain, be grateful instead of angry, calm instead of powerful. The woman who kept shrinking, pleasing, performing until she mistook that mask for her identity. What she's really longing for is not youth, but liberation. Not a body from the past, but a body that feels like home again. Not the illusion of control, but the truth of belonging to herself, to her cycles, and to the natural world. To do this, we must name the forces that shaped us. White supremacy taught us that only certain bodies were beautiful. Patriarchy taught us that only certain emotions were acceptable. And capitalism taught us that our value lies in what we produce, not what we are. And yet here we are, beginning again, remembering that the body is not an inconvenience, but a compass, and that aging is not decay, but initiation, and that rest is not laziness, but resistance. Healing in this context is an act of rebellion, to soften, to slow, to feel, to refuse the constant striving. These are political acts. When a woman says, I'm done fighting myself, she's not giving up, she's just opting out. Opting out of systems that profit from her self-doubt, opting out of belief that she must constantly upgrade, correct, or perfect herself, opting into something truer, something wild, cyclical, and whole. So this episode is a call to see your body not as a battleground, but as a landscape, and to remember that you were never meant to be at war with yourself. To begin the slow, tender work of cultural deprogramming, not by rejecting the world, but by refusing its lies. Because when you return to your own rhythm, to your own uncolonized knowing, you don't just heal yourself, you begin to heal the world that taught you otherwise, but it needs to be called out. And this is an abstract work. It begins quietly. It's in the daily acts of reclamation. And so we start small. We pause before reacting to self-criticism. When you hear that inner voice saying, I should look younger or I should have more energy, ask gently, whose voice is this? Where did I learn this belief? Rewild your routines. Step outside barefoot if you can. Let the sun touch your skin. Eat food grown from living soil and reconnect to rhythms older than productivity. Rhythms such as the seasons, our cycles, our sleep-wake cycle, our monthly, yearly, seasonal rhythms. Replace performance with presence. Notice when you're doing something to appear well rather than to feel well. Slow it down. Do it for you. And reclaim language. Speak differently about your body, not as a problem area or maintenance zone, but as a companion that carries wisdom. And create rituals of refusal. Say no to what drains you, to what commodifies your healing, to what asks you to be disappeared in the void in order to be loved. And say yes to what restores truth in you. Because each act, no matter how small it is, will loosen the old spell. And each time you choose rest over rush and truth over performance and nature over noise, you are deprogramming not only yourself, but the culture that shaped you. Because healing isn't only what happens inside your body, it's what happens when you stop betraying it. So, if today's episode resonated with you, even if you've seen yourself in these stories, know that healing is possible, and it begins with curiosity, not control, nourishment, and not restriction. If you'd like guidance on your own healing journey, you can book a naturopathic consultation through my clinic, Apotheca by Anthea, or join our membership. You'll find all the links in the show notes. I'm Anthea Cluris. Thank you for listening to This Is How We Heal. Until next time.
If this episode spoke to you, your healing journey doesn't have to end here. Join Anthea in her dedicated online community, the Staying Healthy Together Club, a space for real conversations and holistic health education with trusted resources. We'd love to see you there.